Good morning, everyone. I welcome all the participant and expert of the talk, Professor Rajesh Kumar, in this FDP on AI and ML using Python. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all with Professor Rajesh Kumar. Dr. Rajesh Kumar received his BTech degree from NIT Kurukshetra, India, and MTech degree in Power Systems and PhD degree in Intelligence System, MNIT Jaipur. He was postdoctorate research fellow in Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at National University of Singapore. Currently, he has been working as professor in Department of Electrical Engineering, MNIT Jaipur. Dr. Kumar's research interests focus on intelligence system, machine intelligence, power management, smart grid, and robotics. Dr. Kumar has published over 500 research articles, supervised 20 PhD and more than 30 MTech theses. He has 14 patents in his name. He received 3 academic awards, 15 Best Paper Award, 6 Best Thesis Award, 4 Professional Award, and 25 Student Awards. He has received the Career Award for Young Lecturer 2002 from Government of India. He is on 12 Journal Editorial Board. He has been an associate editor of IEEE Access, IEEE I-10, Swan and Evolutionary Computation, elsewhere, IIT Renewable and Power Generation, IIT Power Electronics, and International Journal of Bio-Inspired Computing, and CAAI Transaction on Intelligence Technology, IET. Dr. Kumar is senior member of IEEE, USA Fellow IET, Fellow IE, Fellow IETE Life member CSI, senior member of IAANG, IEANG, and life member of ISTE. He was honorary secretary of IETE Rajasthan chapter and EXCOM IEEE Delhi, PES, IES, and vice chairman of IEEE Rajasthan section. Sir, I salute you for your achievements. You are the one who inspire every faculty in technical field. Thanks a lot for accepting our invitation, for being expert in the session, and I request you to share your wisdom with us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much for introducing me to all the participants. So good morning to all, and I hope I'm audible clearly to everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. You are audible,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, okay, good morning.
Yes,
And yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Uh, and I know it is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, fine, thank you. Please let me know if anything, if there is any discontinuity, maybe on the phone, because the network issues are always there. Anyway, again, I welcome you all in this session, and this session we discuss more on some kind of deep recurrent networks, which are nowadays very popular. Why we are going for this, and so this whole presentation is in two sections. First half is basically a journey from neural network to deep networks, and some mathematics of deep networks, what's the philosophy, how they are being developed, and then at the end one case study, some results, and then in the last I'll keep 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes or so for the queries from the participants there. So for us, like this world is full of data. You can see the data on your screen. The data may be of bar charts. The data may be in forms of some numbers, representation, maybe some graphs. These data may be your stock exchange data, maybe your temperature data, or your wind data, or your ECG signal data. It can be anything. So when we have data in front of us, then various things are there, where questions may be there. So we can broadly classify the questions into three parts. So first question is like, if this is a stock exchange data, so question is obvious. You are a computer scientist, you are a computer person. So this is the graph. Tell me whether my stock will go up. So we have certain data, and the question from the person is, can you tell me whether it will go up or down? The second question can be like this thing that, okay, if this is the graph, so whether the stock is risky or not, is it risky or it's not? So that can be, or should I invest on it? Basically, that is one point. Like you want to ensure that it should not be a risky one. And the third one is basically he can ask, somebody can ask you, okay, is the behavior abnormal? So these are the three possible questions one can ask you when they provide you data or some signal or some stream of data or some bar graphs or any kind of representation. So when we try to address these questions, so though the data are same, the graphs are the same, but the questions are, since the questions are different, so we answer in a different way. So if I try to address the first question, will the stock go up or down? So this one is a time series prediction problem, because on x-axis we have time. So with the time, how my data are changing. So I have some past data, and then okay, in time I want to understand that, okay, what will be the output after certain time or something like that. So it's a time series prediction because the person is interested that with time stock will go up or down or something like that. If I try to address the second question, whether the stock is risky or not, it's basically time series classification problem. We need to classify the things. Time series is already there because the one of the axis is your time, so it is varying continuously, keep on changing. Here in the second question, the person is asked whether it's risky or not risky. So we want to classify it. If it is risky, I'll take some different decision. If it is not risky, then it's okay. And the third one is basically looking for, is their behavior is abnormal or not. Basically, we are looking for outlier detection. So depending upon the question, depending on the queries raised by the consumers or the users, we need to see the which type of approach is there. But yeah, for this type of scenario, we can understand it like it's a series of the data which are coming, and then we are trying to solve those series of the data. And in this particular case, the axis which is moving very fast. Okay, why is dependent? So independent is your time. It's your time. It's keep on changing there. And then a lot of such applications are there. One of this one is there. Okay, we have some sound signals and then frequency responses, and then okay, we try to find out what type of bird it is. So it is the same kind of a structure that identifying the type of the bird. Or you have ECG signal. So you can see the x-axis is your time and time series, and y is some kind of voltage. So we try to classify it if we are looking to solve a problem whether your ECG signal is normal or abnormal. So it's a classification kind of stuff. If you're looking to predict, okay, if this is the pattern coming, then what will be the next pattern or something like that, then it's some kind of a prediction kind of a form. Maybe those who are interested or connected with electrical engineering, so they are looking for, okay, residential load, how it is changing, or they are forecasting the wind, they are forecasting the solar energy generated, something like that. Again, you can see the pattern is same. We have on y-axis some variable, and then x-axis is the time series basically. Okay, so a lot of things can be analyzed from there, and then like this figure is just a representative figure where you can see that, okay, it can give me the mood of the bird. Okay, so whether it's happy or not happy or something like that. So many things can be analyzed, but this type of data is very interesting to see that they are basically connected with each other in time frame. So that's the interesting part here. So that is basically we look for forecasting. That is general. Then you can make forecasting as a converting forecasting problem as a classification problem. And why forecasting? The reason is very simple. We are interested in knowing the future. That okay, what is the future basically? So everybody is interested in understanding what is. I want to know what about the future, what is going to happen there. So that's why this one is very important domain to work on. So here, 1 second, and just give hello. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I told I'll join around here. I told you earlier. Yeah, I'll join around 11. No. Yeah, I'm in a meeting, already in a meeting. I told you this thing. This is the request I made earlier also. Okay, forecasting we are looking for, and then why we need it, the very obvious reasons are there, other than we are curious. The reasons are like uh, we want to kill any lag between like planning, other things, and then implementation and execution of the things. Those lags we want to kill. Okay, so that's why we need forecasting, and some of the applications areas which are there, which you can see on your screen. The application areas are there, which are uh, very popular. Weather forecasting is one of them. Stock market prediction, that's another one. And then you have product recommendation. So now it is very popular. That okay, how your product is being recommended. That is another one. And then energy forecasting, very important nowadays, because energy is being nowadays it's becoming very important important aspect, because of a lot of stress given to here to save the energy, and that is equal to to generate the energy, and many other factors are also associated with it. So these are the forecasting models which people have used, or we can classify our forecasting models into these four categories. So the first one is basically physical model. Okay. So physical, basically they depend upon your physical equations, physical quantities, and then from there we try to connect the relationship. That's the physical model. And the second one is the statistical model. So statistical model is based on some kind of statistical data, and we try to correlate it. Some of machine learning algorithms comes in that one. Learning models, they learn from the history, try to modify their own parameters, and then each model has its own advantage and disadvantage. So the last comes with the hybrid models, which are combination of these models. So these are certain models there. So I start with very fast, because most of you know neural network, but yeah, just to those who are new to this domain, basically neural network is just like how your brain works, how the processing of brain works, and that is mimicked in terms of artificial way. Artificial means that is the representation in terms of certain kind of mathematics, and that mathematics is used to supposed to behave exactly like our brain. So the idea is basically say this is a picture of a cat, and then yes, that image is taken, the data points taken through, you can see the structure given there with some interconnection. So these circles are known neurons, and they are connected with each other. You can see some lines, the connection lines are bold, some lines are very thin. So they can be considered as the weights, and it means how strong that feature is connected. And finally, that network give me output in terms of okay, whether they recognize this one as a cat or something else, or maybe cat or maybe something else. So if it is not, if it is something else and it is a cat, we can say there is an error, and then we try to minimize the error. And the process of doing so is we cannot change the data, so we cannot change the input and we cannot change the output, because the data architecture is already known to us, so that is fixed. We cannot change the architecture. So only the thing in our hand is to vary the weights. So we change the weights so that if I give an image of a cat, it must recognize as a cat. And this is the same way. This is the way how we learn as a kid. Also, our teacher asked to write down A 100 times till we start writing, recognizing it as a A. So this is the basic theory of neural network. I have taken few of the slides from my friends who shared me, Luis and some other fellow also, just to make the things more understandable. So this is in summarize what I have discussed with you. These are the same, all the same things there. So let's check, talk about the same this neural network like this. Say I want to estimate PM 2.5. Okay, so I have certain inputs, and those inputs are the data basically. So what are those inputs given to me? Okay, so PM, what I want to calculate is PM 2.5. So I'm looking for the output PM 2.5. Okay, so that is what we are looking for. But that what is the output of PM 2.5? But it depends on various parameters. So you can say what was the PM 2.5 day before. What is the maximum temperature? What is the minimum temperature? How much is the humidity? What is the wind in X direction? What is the wind in Y direction? Okay, what is the value the same day last year, or same day this week, last week, or something like that. So these are all these are the inputs. So the extreme right and left, you can see inputs and outputs. Okay, and the rest of the things is the architecture. So the thing which is in our hand is basically those you can see here. Change it as a pointer. The things which you can see here, this part, these are the weights basically. So these are the weights which we need to check it, and we can only modify this one because we can have like, okay, PM 2.5 depends on humidity. So obviously this weight will be more or less. And these weights, these are the basically signal strength. So brain signal strength also you can see. So these weight when you multiply by the input and adds and bias. So this one summing part, we pass it to some activation function, which is equivalent to a mapping of a nonlinearity in our brain processing. And then again that is weighted and then again summed up and output is there. So this one is basically a simple structure. Let's understand in more simple way so that we can understand it much better. And then we update these weights. So the weight updation is the learning process. So how we do it? Okay, we find out the error here. We check out what is the output. We know what is the actual output, and then we find out how much is the difference between the actual and the estimated. And that is basically error. And then we vary these weights in such a way that the error is minimized. So this one is now an optimization problem that minimizes your error by varying the weights there. And that's how we reach to the solution. So that process is known as a learning basically. Okay, so this is how it will work. Okay, a lot of application. ANN has a numerous application, well-known, well-proven applications like from machine translation, recognition, speech recognition, vision, games, medical diagnosis. Everywhere you can find ANN is used. And this is the simple structure. So give an input. There are some layers in between, hidden layers we normally call it, and it will generate an output. Well, there are certain kind of issues with this network, and these issues will people try to address these issues, and then that's why we come up with the new kind of architectures and all these things. So this one is feed forward. Feed forward means the flow of the data or is only in one direction. So input is given, goes to H, goes to Y. So that is basically feed forward. So we'll discuss all these things. So let's take a simple example here. Okay. The example is I have two types of inputs, and that is the type of the day. So that is basically here. That is what is the day. So day can be your sunny day, and day can be your okay. So Give me just a second. Okay, so what we are having here, we represent the 2 days. So in terms of 0, 1, and 1, 0, because one is day, one is representation of sunny, and another one is rainy, and we have two outputs. Okay, so one output is so it is basically so then we can see so if day is not sunny, then there is no party. So that party we represented by some number. We have taken it like 100 here. So it's 1001 the input, and 100 is the output. So now the point is how to find out this matrix. This is the weight matrix. And if you find it correctly, then yes, your network is in. So say I have learned certain kind of weight matrix. When I multiply this 10 by this, it will give me this 0.7, 0.21. And then here I may around that whichever is the highest, that will be 1. So then you see there is a between input. So if I give the output is 0, 0, and if I give 0, 1 here instead of 1, 0, then output will be other than 1, 0, which is small part. This one is simple feed forward network, and the agenda is how to find out these states. But let's take this question here. Here, problem is a bit change. Okay, so it is basically something. The changes like yesterday I did some kind of running and it's sunny. Today so my activity is basically cycling. And if I did cycling and day is sunny, I go for swimming. And if yesterday is swimming, day is sunny, I'm going for running. So what is there? Depending upon the day, and depend not only on the day, depending upon what I did yesterday. So I go for the next activity. So that means my activities are connected with each other. They are connected in time. That what I did yesterday. Okay. And there is another condition. If there is no rain, no sunny, it's rain, then I go for sleeping. Okay. So the question interesting is okay. Here it's okay. Yesterday I did sunny. I go for cycling. If it is cycling day is rainy day, I go for sleeping. And if I sleep and then day is sunny and my network has some memory of one day, so then okay, I can trace back and find it out what I did early. So then I go for swim. But what will happen if like this? The question is this one. This one is a challenge because feed forward network will not. They are not able to answer it here. Okay. The question is first day it's I did cycling. Oh, sorry, running, and then second day cycling because it's sunny, and then third day it's sunny again, so I shift from cycling to swimming, and then day is running, sleeping. Then again the next day is running, rainy, sleeping, and now what is about sixth day if it is sunny? So and I don't have any kind of memory as such. I don't have such long memories there, and and that is the main question. So that is the question in such type of scenario. So the feed forward network, they don't have memory. They just give the input, it will generate out kind of memories like this because my data are sequence data, and that's why we need to do certain kind of modifications. Okay, some other examples like the food was really good. So if I give the first input and then I can connect it with the second block, so some memory is there. So I take a food and there is the connection that okay, the food, then I connect it with was, and then I connected with really, then okay, I can go for the good. I can find out my sentiments. Okay, this one is positive sentiment or negative sentiment from there. So here the sentence, the words, they are connected with each other. And such type of things, if you want to process with a simple network, so yeah, they will not able to process the things very properly. Okay, so in a different form, so what is the solution and what are the issues are taken some slides from Luis, also he shared with me. So it's a simple problem like this. So how normally we do it? So the question is very simple. Here the problem is taken in a very simple way so that anybody can understand. There are two types of days and there are three types of food in front of him. So he has choices like, okay, day sunny, I'll go for 5, and if the day is rainy, then I go for a burger. And third one is there, it is not right now decided here. So we and the thing is here.
Sir,
So
voice
so
is breaking.
what is the observation? Voice is breaking, maybe some network issue, not very. Is it audible? Hello.
Yes, sir. Now it's audible, but sometimes the voice is breaking, sir.
Yeah. So because even I have turned on off my video also, so that the transmission
Yeah,
can
sir.
be done.
That I can understand, but some words, some sentences are not understandable. That's why I request.
Okay. So what I can do is I move a bit slow. Okay. So make some sense there. Or let me. Okay. And thank you for updating me.
Yes, sir.
So what we are doing is that we know that okay, the challenge is basically what is neural network in the most simplest way. The neural network is basically this is the endpoint, and we know. So we want to relate. We want to make a relation between this and this. So I need a one matrix, which is we call as the weight matrix. So that when we multiply it, we reach to it. Okay. Okay. So just somehow I have developed this matrix 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. But if I multiply it, I reach to this solution 1, 0, 0. Okay. So but please note it, you cannot change with the inputs. It has to be fixed so that it can classify the inputs. So if I turn the input and then again multiply this and with the different products, so it's okay. It's satisfied by the conditions, and this one is basically simple feed forward neural network. So we represent it like this. We give an input. So input is day and output is which type of food. This one is a simple neural network. Okay, and you can represent it like this also.
September
Okay.
September.
So yeah, the question. I'll take the question at the end. So if you have queries, please note it. I'll take the question. Okay. So if I give the inputs like this, and then you can see the weights are 2 weights are 1, rest are zeros. It will generate the same output, and this is basically a neural network. Okay. Now let's make the problem complex. The complexity is reduced here. That okay, this person cook the things in a sequence. So sequence means first he cook apple pie, then he go for burger, then he go for chicken, and the rotation will be there. So then how to develop a network for it? Okay. So then my matrix is something different. Okay. So you can see here 100 is apple pie and the burger is 010. So I need a one matrix so that I give input 100 to it, multiply that by a certain weight matrix. I must get 0. Okay. So that is the basically the next input and next output, and now this one is in, and if I multiply statics, okay, and so this one is basically we are taking the feed output and giving back to the input, and if we do so, those networks are known as recurrent neural network. So recurrent neural networks are basically we taking the output and we pass it back to the input. Okay, so that is somewhere some kind of stuff we can say it has certain kind of a memory in that sense, because they have the information that, okay, if output is known, what is the input or something like that. Okay. So the idea is same here, and the representation is, you can see the output is fed back to the input. Okay. So the weights you can see here. You can see here the weights are fixed. They are not like for every input they are changing, and this is the target. So these are recurrent neural network which address the issues which are raised by your simple neural network. Okay. So let's make it a more complicated case, and the complexity will increase it. That okay, it's okay. That person is following a sequence, but let's put another complication. That okay, if the day is depending upon the day, it changes there, right? Okay, so here it is apple pie day, sunny, go for apple pie. If it is rainy, then it go for burger. If it is rainy, it go for chicken. If it is sunny, then it's chicken. So if we follow this pattern, something is very interesting. And the interesting part is, if the day is sunny, there is no change. Okay, there is no change in the output. But if the day is rainy, then there is a change. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Sir, I'm in another meeting. I told you earlier I made a request. That's why after I said yes. I said that I will actively participate after 10:30 or 11. I'm in another meeting, so I have joined, and it's okay. Okay, so and that is the case here. So how to do it? So yeah, now my net is complicated. I'm taking the output and giving back it to the input. So it's a RNN, but I'm giving another input also to it. Okay. So here we can see here that, like, because what is the interesting part is every time food has, if the food is there, say apple pie, there are two chances which can be, two things can be generated out of it. One is the same, and another one is what is the next in the sequence. So we modify our matrix like this. You multiply the upper half of the matrix, you will get the same. You multiply the bottom half of the matrix here. So okay, so it will go for the next one. Okay. So same is with the day also. So we can think of the same characterization of the thing. In the day or same day, the things there. Okay. And then this combination and these kind of report, because now your input vector is components. One component, what is the product or what is the food earlier, and the second input component is the type of the day. Similarly, it will generate, based upon that, it will generate what should be the next outcome of it. So this is how it can be taken. I don't know what is interrupted in between. Why he's asking me. Okay, so this is how we are representing it. We have food vector, we have weather vector, and they are represented in like this, and then they are added up. Then we have a nonlinear function in between, which will generate a out. So you can see here the food which is one of the input, and the food is output. They are cyclic in nature, whereas the weather is an independent factor. So it will decide about the cycle. Okay, so this is how this one is finally connected there. So food is basically, you need not to give an input. It is basically whatever the output you feed back to the input, whether you can add it. So weather is a controlling factor, which if you make it, give it, it will generate certain kind of, it will control the process, whether the same food be repeated or some change should be there. There is a nonlinear function, and the nonlinear function you can understand it from here. Some kind of a nonlinear function, we use it just the mouse. Okay, so the nonlinearity is basically we represent this one. What is there 1 to 1? So we make which one is having a highest value as 1 and the rest value is as 0. So that is basically the some kind of nonlinearity we have added, and this one is known as activation function in terms of when we talk about any type of neural network. So these are the these networks are known as recurrent neural network, which has certain kind of a memory. So let's understand from this figure. You can see in your figure, extreme left side, X is the input. There is a cell which is generating output. So that is basically a feed forward. Whereas if I make a small change, and the change is like that, okay, X1 is I'm passing to the cell, but I'm passing something from the past also, which is H0, and it is generating output H. So the representation of the more extreme left side is transformed like extreme right side. Okay, so H0 is there, which is initial. This one is sequential. X1 is the new input coming, so you can take it as a food as your H0. X1 you can say the day, and it will give the two things: what will be the next output and the final output of the system. These are known. This one is the architecture of recurrent neural. I'll repeat few of the slides again and again in different forms so that we can understand it most appropriately. Okay, so we have a formula like this. You can see, understand it. We give okay, so we give one input, and there is some kind of a hidden things are there, and then we have certain kind of outputs. Okay, so the point here is basically you can see here three right side. You can see the equation there that we have old state, which is t minus 1. We have input, which is xt, and they pass through certain a new state. This one is a key neural network with certain kind of a memory into it. So you can unfold it basically. So the unfolding is basically here. You can see the H part is there. So H part is basically there is a loop. Okay, so you can open this loop, and when you open this loop, your H will be, these will be a stack of feed forward networks where they are, so multi feed forward network, they are connected with each other. Okay, so you can see now the inputs t minus 1, xt minus 1, ht minus 1, which generates yt minus 1. Okay, and then they in the next timestamp xt, ht, yt. Then the next time t plus 1, xt plus 1, ht plus 1, and then yt plus 1. Okay, so that means they are they are moving your timestamps, and you can see here there is a link in between where we are taking the input from the past. We are taking ht minus 1 in consideration when we are calculating for ht. We consider ht when we are calculating for ht plus 1. by certain weights there. Okay, so it may be a bit difficult to take different weights. So here, what we are having is we are keeping weights, few weights fixed. Fixed in the sense like what is the weight between the input and the hidden. That is, so you can see WH every time, everywhere. Similarly, the weight between the H hidden and the output is HY. That is same. And similarly, the weight between hidden and hidden, WHH. That is, so this is how this configuration can be developed to capture the two properties, mapping of input and output, along with some sort of memory into it. Okay, so this one is a simple representation of the same thing. You can see the outputs are generated with new inputs, whereas the hidden cells, they pass the information to each other. Okay, so in a more simplified way, at t is equal to 1. Okay, t is equal to 1. We have x1 as an input. H0 is also input to hidden layer. It generates some, okay, and then that H1 is connected to the output. Now this H1 is taken from here, t is equal to 2, x2 will come, it will generate H2, then H2 will generate certain Y2, H1, H2, these are the hidden layers, what are the outputs, and then this H2, t is equal to 3, H2 will be input, and X3 is also input to the hidden layer, which generate H3 and Y3. So you can see along x-axis, you can see very interesting things there, that your with the timestamps, your inputs are coming x1, x2, x3, and they are generating the outputs y1, y2, y3 likewise. Okay, so this one is the same thing which is I'm repeating so that one can understand the architecture here. And this is the mathematics comes into the picture. Okay, so what is the mathematics? I want to calculate H1. So how I can calculate H1? So there are two inputs for H1. One is X1, another one. X1 is multiplied by weight. So that is weight between H and X. And then H0 is also multiplied by certain weight. So you can take this one as a simple neural network with two inputs, H0 and X1. They are multiplied by weights, they are added up, and they are passed through as some nonlinear function. Here in this case is 10H is taken, which is generate output H1. Okay, so we have H1 is equal to this equation as it is. Okay, so that is H1, and then we multiply H1 by certain weight and pass it to another activation function, which will give me Y1. This one is one step, or you can say one at any instant. This is a one, but at the next instant, your X1 changes to X2, and H0 changes to H2, and accordingly you will get new value of Y2. So these are the most popular equations which are being used everywhere. Okay. So this one is basically vanilla network, which is the most simple network. Look like if you watch it carefully, it looks exactly like a simple feed-forward neural network. Okay. Here we have two inputs, ht minus 1 and xt. We have two weights. One weight we multiplied with xt. One weight we multiplied with ht minus 1. We pass it through some activation. Yes. Hello. Hello.
Okay, sir. Now it is okay. Like not
yeah, it is a lag basically that is coming again and again. Okay. So 10H can be we can have 10H function like this, and then by varying your coefficient, you can vary what type of shape of 10H you want to develop. So that is basically activation function you want to play with. Okay. So these are some calculations which are being given in most of the application, most of books and the papers. Agenda here is more on how to connect it in that particular understanding there. So two important aspects here. I don't know what is. Yeah. So two important aspects here. You can see here. I can show you. You can represent your HT by various ways. This one is no linear function. This one is the xt is the input multiplied by the weight. HT minus 1 multiplied by the weight plus biasing if it is having. So either you represent it like this, or you can represent it like this. You make a common matrix, weight matrix, and common your input vectors. Both are same. There's no any difference in it. Okay. So there are two representation. Either you represent it like this, your weights into x vector, your weights into h vector, and plus bias, or you combine weight matrix, and you can make a combined input vector matrix, and so that you can have output here. Okay, so that is how this is being worked there. Okay, so that's the same notation. No need to worry on this one. So you can see here the good part here is you have weight matrix. So weight are same everywhere. So you have only one type of weight matrix. This we need to calculate. This weight matrix we need to develop. Okay, so rest of the things exactly look like a feed-forward network. Don't get confused here. Only the change is the extra input is there, which is the output of the earlier cell. So the memory is there. There are various types of configuration. You can see here the configuration: 1-to-1, 1-to-many, many-to-1, many-to-many, and there are many-to-many different another configuration. Please note it here. 1-to-1 means there is one input and there is one output. Okay. 1-to-many is one is the input and you have many output. Many-to-1, many inputs, one output, and many-to-many. So this one is the first one is the simple vanilla neural network. Okay. So we have one input and then we find out what is the output. The question, and the second one is 1-to-many. So if I give one input and then how to generate many outputs there. And then we have many-to-many. So I'll go there directly. Okay. The example of 1-to-many is here. So you give one image. Okay. You give one image here. That is sequence of words. Image is you pass one image. So image is like a person is standing there with their bat or with their ball, and then it do some auto texting. Okay, the image is auto texted. That is basically it highlight that okay, it label the image that a person with the ball. So that is 1-to-many. Okay, so that's an example of 1-to-many. Many-to-one is basically we give a sequence of words. Okay, like Twitter words or some words on the Facebook or something like that, where it gives certain output, whether what is the sentiment associated with it. Okay, whether it's a positive feeling from these few words, or they are giving a negative feeling from these two words, or something like these few words is something like that. So that is basically many. Okay, so this is the example of many-to-one. Third one is many-to-many. So its best example is basically your machine translation. Okay, you give some words in certain language, say in Hindi, and then it automatically converts to some kind of words in English. So it's a many-to-many machine translation part. Or you have also like you have signals in one language and then it can generate. You speak it out and then it type the things there. So it's an example of many-to-many. And the another one is many is the video classification frame level. So videos are coming and then you're classifying it and then you're converting into auto texting representation. So these are the applications of RNN, recurrent neural network. Okay, and this one is the representation of many-to-many. So you can see here many inputs are coming in a weight here, and weights is same. The outputs are taken from there. This one another way of many to many. So what here it is interesting part. This one architecture you can see here, this bottom architecture, where we are giving many inputs, but we are generating one output from here. So this block is basically this bottom block is many to one, and then we add another block here where we take one as input and convert it into many outputs. So this one is another architecture which is very popular. It is many to one and one to many. So it's encoder decoder type of architecture which is being used by various researchers there. Okay, so encoder and decoder is basically you take many inputs, convert into one output, and then you take this one output as an input to the next and then generate many outputs from it. So finally it's many to many, but in stages, basically one stage or two stage kind of architectures. Okay, so these are the certain examples of many to many, and then yeah, one example is shown here, machine translation given in some Korean, or you want to produce a letter in English. So it's embedding sentence. Generating the output from. So we call it a decoder. So these are the things which we have used in. Okay, repeating how it say a serial letter we have 0, we multiply by 7, so that C value is something like which is shown there, and that action multiplied by weight function which gives y, then y is which is highly. This is how the processing occurs in a recurrent. Okay, so this is happening in the recurrent mode. And represent again and again. I'm just doing this one for more things here. Another thing is basically recurrent network when we talk about unidirectional or bidirectional. So the point here is basically you can see the flow of the things. They are in both direction, from H0 to H3 and from H3 to H0. Okay, so if the flow is in both the direction, we call them as a bidirectional recurrent neural network. There can be stacked neural networks, so that makes it deep also. Okay, you can see there is about one layer of RNN, and then another layer of RNN, and then you can have another layer of RNN. So you can go into deep of it. Those are known as stacked recurrent neural network. Okay. Even stacked also maybe also bidirectional. So these are the certain variants there. Okay. These are the certain kind of variability are there. Okay. So now the two things which are very important. So feed forward is basically we take H0 and X1 as an input, okay, and we give the H1, and then yeah, we know that activation function. This already I've shown you, which generate output Y, and then the output is compared with the known output, so we get a error, and then this error is used. So we collect these errors, and then finally we have a complete error value, and then this error is used to update the weights. So in between this H1, they are connected with each other, but the errors are being done like this. Okay. So how we are doing it? So we are doing it like this. We have input. This is our network, which make the things very easy to understand. We take X, we multiply by the weight related to X, take another weight related to H, we multiply by h, we add them both, and then pass through a function. Okay, when you pass through this function, you'll get h dash. Okay, and then h dash we multiplied by another weight, which is output weight. Okay, and then pass through another nonlinear function, which will give me out, and that's all. This is how your recurrent neural network works, and I hope you understand from here. Okay, so these nonlinear functions can be like softmax or tangential. That's a different analysis part, but this is the philosophy of working with this one. Okay. One more, I don't think it is required right now because we need to discuss some more aspect of it. So I just skip this example from here. Okay. The second thing comes to the training of it. Say I have calculated error, then how to train it. So the training is being done exactly like a feed-forward network. Okay. Then that is basically back propagation, which we normally do there. Okay. So back propagation, I think you are already aware of, but yeah, for the just for a brief, we calculate total loss, okay, error, okay, and then we want to minimize it, and we know that the minimization process is we take a derivative of it and then calculate what is the error basically, derivative of that, and then okay, we try to find out the point where the derivative becomes 0, so that we get the minimum or maximum, something like that. So here we use a chain rule. Okay, like I want to differentiate dl by whs, so it's a dl by dy into dy by dh into dh by dhk, and then dhk by whs. So so this is basically how we do it in backpropagation network. And if you go by this, we have few challenges in RNN. And those challenges are here. You can see at the written vanishing and exploding gradient problems. Let's see what are these. So this is how it works basically. Okay, so derivatives are taken at every point. Okay, with respect to all the weights. So this is the mathematics. This is a very basic mathematics which is given in. So if we discuss more on it, it will kill most of our time. So I take it from here that okay, back propagation you are already aware of. Okay, so what are the issues which are there, and issues can be taken from. Issues are related with the weights. So we understand, yes, there is a certain weight within every H element. Okay, so they are connected with each other, and those weights are same. Okay, so let me see if the figure is there. If I put it now, so you just take this figure here. We know that this weight and this weight and this weight and this weight all are same. Okay. Now, if my weight, this weight here, these weights which are connecting your A cells with each other, if the value is less than, so what will happen? If it is less than 1, so say it is say 0.5, so this x0 effect here, it will be 0.5 because somehow it is connected with A, and this effect comes here because this is 0.5. So the effect of this timestamp to the next is 50%, and then this one and this one, they are again 0.5. So the effect of this x0 over x2, it is again 50% of 50%, so 0.25. Okay, so you'll find that very soon the effect of this vanishes. Okay, it goes down very fast. So this one is known as a vanishing problem. Okay, on the other side, if this value is more than 1, okay, say it is 2, so what will happen? What will happen? That effect of x0 on x1 is 2 times, and then effect of x0 on x2 is 4 times, and then x0 on somewhere here will be that much, multiple of 2. So every time it is increasing. So this one is known as exploding problem. Okay, and these both are not good for our system, because why it is not good? On one side, we are saying, say, we are estimating at t+1. Say. So if we are estimating at t+1, and if the weights are more than 1, what will happen? this x0 will dominate all other weights because this one is multiplied for a longer time and the value is higher than 1. So x0 will dominate. Meaning is, say right now the temperature of Jaipur is say 28 degree and I want to estimate for next half an hour. And I'm having a data of say last week. So last week, what was the temperature that will dominate for the calculation for next after 1 hour, what will be the temperature, which is not a good idea. Which has to dominate, which is the just what is the temperature just now. Okay, that has to supposed to dominate because that will play a big role. So that's why the value of this one value of your W is small, it is not good. In another cases, if it is less, very less, if it is less than 1, what will happen? That the effect of this one totally gone by the time I reach here. Then that means the memory part is gone. So this is the major problem with the RNN, and what it has to be equal to 1, which is a bit difficult. So these are the two problems. So your weights are there. They are either 1, more than 1, or less than 1. In both the cases, they affect our solutions, affect our outcomes, and that's why the things are a bit critical there. So people suggest why not to modify these in RNN, and that is known as your long short-term so as to the long term we where we and short is basically just the instant before what happened there. So this 1997 the idea of introducing it is to take care of your issues which are exploding gradient problems or vanishing gradient problems are there. So how to do it? And people do it by using gates. So gate is basically, let's understand the concept here. Gate is basically nothing but a wall. So these are the walls which they have put there. Okay. And these walls basically they are used to control all the things. Okay. So that means we have some control in our hand. We can control the flow of the information from far end or from the near end. And that is the concept being used here. That's the concept here. So they are modified versions of RNN. I already told you. They have memory cell. How they work it? Let's jump directly into it. Okay. So this one is let's understand it by step that how the LSTM works basically. So you can see here there is a memory cell. Okay. So which is being represented by CT. Okay.
Slide
आपको दिख रहा by LSTM का slide दिखेगा आपको? Can you see the slide of LSTM?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can see here there is a memory lane which is CT-1 and going to
Sir,
CT. We call it
so
a
there
memory.
are only theory
Which-
concept, no figure or diagram is there.
What diagram is there? One diagram is there if you can see it on your screen. Can you see that? Now the theory is there, but this is now the diagram is there. Can you please check it?
So there is only theory concept is visible regarding LSTM. That long-term short memory.
Diagram is
then
not visible, sir. Diagram is not visible. Only bullet points are visible.
I can see the slide. Okay. Okay, let me change the network also because the weather is also not good here. So that is the
Presently, short-term memory slide, sir, on which some points were written. There is no diagram.
Can you see it now?
Same screen still visible, sir?
And now?
Sir, better you stop share and share it again.
Okay, I'll do that.
So it's visible now. Thank you.
Hello, is it visible?
Yes, sir. You can find the screen of step-by-step LSTM module.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So now we are on the correct. So we have this one CT-1, which this we call as a memory lane. Okay.
Sir,
And
please put it in
this memory
slideshow
lane.
mode, sir. Please change it to slideshow mode.
I already done. I already done.
Still,
I
it
don't
is
know
not
why
done.
it is. Uh, Let me know if it is working. Hello. Is it visible now?
No, sir. Share was stopped. No screen sharing right now, sir.
See, I have tried from 3 data networks, my institute one, my own personal one, but I don't know why it is not coming. It spoiled whole of the thing. Yeah. Let me try something more here. Now I stopped sharing and now I do the sharing once again. Okay, now it is presenting and can you see the whole?
No, sir, it's not visible as of now.
Okay, this one is getting some issues.
It is not visible now, sir.
It is not visible. What to do? Dr. Gore.
Sir, if it is not getting visible, then maybe you can disconnect and connect again.
Okay.
If it is not working. Or maybe you can try again, sir. Maybe it will get this invisible.
Or just stop sharing and share it again, please. Would be better to disconnect, sir.
Rajesh, sir, are you audible?
Participants, kindly wait. I think there are some technical issues.
Okay, sir.
Sure, sir. No problem.
I'm trying, so please bear with us.
Yes, sir. It's okay. It's technical.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
can understand.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah,
Step by step.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now fine.
Okay. So what is there? We have put one memory lane here. You can see the CT minus one, CT minus one to CT. So it carries the memory basically. Okay. And you can see two interesting signs there. Okay. Let me take a laser pointer. One is your multiply here and added something here. My point is, suddenly split all the things, or so here this one multiplier means it's basically it's a gate. Okay, gate means if you multiply anything by certain number, that is basically act as a wall. Okay, if you multiply anything by 1, that means as it is you are taking the thing. If you're multiplying it by 50.5, that means you are taking only 50% of the information and something like that. So wherever you find this multiplier, you will find this one is just a controlling device thing. Okay. So this is the step one. So what we do is we develop a forget layer. Okay, so forget gate we want to develop it, which is forget gate. So the calculations are simple. You can see, understand it here. HT minus 1, which was earlier also, XT, which was earlier also. So we have HT minus 1 and XT. We multiply by weight. We add some bias, pass through certain function. This function give me certain value. Okay, so this value here, it will decide that how much CT minus I want to consider. So this one is a wall. Okay, so my wall calculation depends upon my HT minus 1 and XT. Everywhere I'm using it. You'll see it look like a big, but it is a very simple configuration when you develop it. Like another wall here. So another calculation. So this one is again HT minus 1 and XT. I'm taking it here, passing through a certain function. Just focus on this part. Okay, first equation IT1. So this one is also passed through a certain function sigma, which also act as a wall. This act as a wall on the input gate. Okay, similarly, I'll take these two inputs and then what I'm doing here is this is the output, which is FT is the output of the first gate, and we are multiplying it by CT minus 1. So if this output is 0, so this output FT is 0, that means what? If 0 is there, so whatever the CT minus 1 coming, that is totally stopped. We are not considering anything from the memory. Okay, so this goes 0 forward. If it is 1, that means we are considering the whole of its memory. So this is the play here. Depending upon FT, the old memory is considered. Okay. When we are doing then the next part we need to understand this plus sign, and this is again a very important part. In a way, when we make a decision, it's not like always we take 100% from the past, or we never consider the past. We consider some part of the past and some part based upon the today's condition. So that is how the updation is being done. So whatever is coming from the past, we add something to it. Okay, and that something is basically plus sign here. And what is that something? That something is CT is generated. So CT is what is CT? You can see here. CT is what are be the inputs passed through the 10H function. So this one is CT hat is nothing but your RNN. You can see 10H weight into HT minus 1 XT. So this one is nothing but it's basically exactly as RNN. But how much of this we need to consider? What we do, we multiply it by the gate, okay, which is the input gate. Okay, so that controls that how much updation of memory I want. So this one is the memory part which I'm updating, but I multiply it by the gate part. So we have one gate at the memory part. Okay, that we call it forget gate because that decide how much to remember and how much to forget. The second part is how input gate, that is basically how much input we want to consider. And the third gate is basically output gate, that how much output I want out of it. Okay, again the same calculation. So just only the weight change, but the same calculation is there. So this multiplied by the from the memory part, which because that will be the next HT. So that will be the output, and then this HT is taken here. So this is basically a trick here. Trick is only you can think of that like instead of now earlier we have only the one, we have weights in the flow, weight between H and H and weight between your cell and your X. And there we have vanishing gradient, all these problems. Here we can control how much weight to be inserted by using these gates. And by using so we can easily control the whole of the things there. Okay, so I'm summarize and put it there like this. We have one gate which is 4-gate gate here, which decides that how much of the memory to be kept of 4-gate. Another gate is the input, which decides how much input is to be used for updation of my memory. And there is an output gate which controls how much output I have to take from it. This one is LSTM part. Okay. So again, just repetition so that we can understand. CT minus comes in, HT minus 1 comes in, XT comes in. We calculate things from there. Okay, so we get the 4-gate gate, which is which decides how much of CT minus 1 has to be considered. We have input gate, which decides how much updation of the updation of the memory to be done based upon the current situation. Okay, and then which decides that how much output has to be taken for the further calculations. Okay, so this is how it works there. Okay, so calculations are the same. I am skipping this one, but we can see the picture here. We can see the RNN LSTM. RNN, we have only 10H function. There is no controlling gate. Whereas in LSTM, we have all sigmas. All these sigmas, basically, these are the gates. So we have 3 sigmas. We have 3 gates there, which control the whole of the process there. Okay. So then people come out with various kind of solutions here. Let me see. I'll come back to this slide. Let's discuss something more on how it works there. So this one is basically RNN structure, HT minus 1, HT, XT, and YT. This is we have LSTM. So XT comes in, and then 2 inputs more comes into it. That is HT minus 1 and CT minus 1. And then it generates 2 output, CT and HT, and HT is taken for the calculation of YT. So there is a difference. So we have used this CT lane into it, and that will serve our purpose. Okay, so C changes slowly and your H changes fast. So we have both slow change and fast change, and that is basically connection with long term and short term. Basically, short term memory changes fast and long term changes a bit slow. Okay, so again, I'll take it. Let's understand it. It's working. We have CT minus 1, we have HT minus 1, we have XT. So I'm just writing at different places so that we can develop the whole of the architecture. Okay, so I take XT. Now otherwise the calculations looks much to you. Let's make it in the most simplest form. You can see here. XT is coming, HT minus 1 is coming, we multiplied by the weight, we pass through the 10H function, which give me one output, calculation output. Okay, so if I take HT minus 1 and XT and input, it give me Z. Let's understand it Z. Okay, then I again take the same XT minus XT and HT minus 1, again multiplied by certain another weight, input weight, pass through these functions. Sigma, it will give Zi. So I'll put it Zi. Again, I take the same inputs multiplied by WF, pass through the function, it will give me ZF. So I is the input, F is 4-gate, W is simple calculation. Similarly, I'll take another calculation, same input data multiplied by W0, that is output, pass through the function sigma, and that will give me the Z0. Okay, so we have these 4. Okay, so Zi, Zf, Z0, these are nothing but gates, and Z is a simple RNN. So we just connect it. So these are the control gates: control forget gate, control input gate, update information, and control output gate. This is the simple way to understand it. Okay, so these are the matrices. We do it, and then what we do, we pass CT minus 1 also as input to it. Okay, okay. If we pass CT minus 1 also as input to it, that change the architecture. But this is, let's understand, this one is a simple LSTM processing. And now you have to just multiply and add the things, because these are the 4 things we need to solve all of this structure. Let's come to the earlier architecture which I was talking about, and I'm moving to that one. Go to the space. This one is another architecture which was proposed by researchers, and it was proposed 2000. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. And this architecture is proposed in 2000, which is known as peephole connections. Please mute your mic. So peephole is nothing but what is there that you can understand from here, that take CT minus 1 also input to the gate. Okay, so instead of HT minus 1 and XT, we have added CT minus 1 also, which is known as peeping into the memory. So this memory is to the gates only, not to the calculation, but to the gates only. So this one is known as peephole LSTM, where the gates are not they are not a function of only H and X, they are also function of the memory. That's the only difference. So that is known as your peephole network. Okay, so I'm this I already explained to you what this CT minus 1 also input to the calculation. So this one is known as your peephole network. Okay, this one is peephole. We are giving our memory also. We are considering memory also to decide the gate. Okay, so now the 3 inputs will come. Okay, so rest of the things are same. Okay, so how it is working? So LSTM, we have 3 gates. We have Z calculation. So we multiply I into Z. You can see here we are multiplying this and this. So this one is multiplier Y. Okay. We multiply CT minus with ZF. So this one is CT minus 1. We multiplied by ZF. Okay. And then we are adding them. So we are adding this one and this one. So we are adding these 2 here. Okay. And that gives me CT. So CT comes out from here. Okay. And then we are passing this CT with 10H function, and then multiplying by the gate. So we multiply by this gate, and this give me HT. And this from HT I can calculate YT. Okay, so this is basically a simple way to understand your LSTM. And if what I do, if I take CT minus 1 from here and give an input here also, so give an input here also, then it will become a peephole network. That is basically peephole. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, and then we add the next calculations and then next network, and likewise it keep on working. So this is how LSTM works there, with time kind of specifications there. Okay. There are other improvements there. So one improvement comes as peephole. Another improvement comes from here. This one is coupled gate. Okay. So coupled is basically you can see here instead of taking the input, what is the difference? Earlier in LSTM, what we have taken HT minus 1 and XT, and we put a gate here. Okay. Here they say that okay, let's make this one as complementary. That how much is the memory from the past and how much of the memory from today, they are complement of each other. So if I'm considering 20% of the past, then obviously 70% I'm updating from today's only for final updation. So instead of taking that one, they put a one minus sign. One minus means if this gate value is this gate value, is say here 20%, then this gate value is 80%. So that's how they have done it, just to reduce certain weights. Okay, so the you can see that factor is coming as 1 minus ft. So forget gate, whatever the value of forget gate, 1 minus that one will be used here. So this one is a new version of this one, LSTM, which we call as a coupled forget and input gate structure. And then brings a big change in it, and that is basically GRU, the most one of the most popular gates used, developed in 2014, very popular, very commonly used, which is known as gated recurrent units, GRUs there. So the change they have made is, you can see if you compare with your this GRU structure with this structure, they have eliminated your C line, that is basically the memory lane out of it. The memory lane is not there. Okay, so rest of the things are there. So they have used H instead. So H comes here, calculations are almost same. See, H comes here, X comes here. It gives me a output. Okay, and then H and X again gate, which is coupled -1, and then 10H is basically original RNN, and this H1 is directly updated like C, like your memory lane. So we can call this one as nothing but this GRU is a combination of your LSTM, P4 as and your coupled gates. So you can see here, this one is basically the structuring of this one is same as LSTM. So that part is there. Gates, they are, you can see they are coupled with the -1 sign, so that part is coming there. And what we have done people, we use memory as a part of gate. So here we have taken HT -1, which represent here now a memory, and it is a part of the gate here. So this one is GRU, most very popular model of LSTM being used as on today. Rest of the calculation are the same. You can see HT -1 comes in, XT comes in, multiplied by the weight passed through the function. Similarly, passed through another function, we get ZT and RT. So ZT here, so ZT -1 goes here, ZT goes here, and then we have RT here. This equation 10H of weights into those calculations, they are same as in your simple RNN, and we have finally HT calculations from here. So these are the modifications on the things, so that the idea here is one, to reduce the number of variables, two, to use the benefits of LSTM, benefits of people, and benefits of coupled gates. So that's the idea here, how the GRU being used here. So these are the some corrections you can see that if you compare it with LSTM and all that. Okay. So I'm taking some case study, and then yeah, quick 10-15 minutes for the questioning on the things there. So we have taken a data of a Jodhpur. The location site is given to you. That is 26.23 degree north, cross 23.024 east for the year 2015. Data time hourly data, and they have total samples. We have taken 8,760 samples with 5 features. So the features are like, what is the wind speed, what is the air temperature, what is the pressure, what is the dew point, what is the humidity, and we want to predict, okay, what is the wind speed. So that's the idea here. Okay, so these are the specifications of the turbine, not of our interest right now. So what is the flow? How we work? We collect the data, we normalize or standardize the data, and select the features. So these are the normal pre-processing technique which are being used in data analytics. And then we split the data in 2 sets, test data and training data. We use then training data again, we divide into 2 parts for validation data and training data, and we use the training data, use the algorithm, and we use keep on tuning the hyperparameters, and then we use validation data to validate it, and finally testing data to test the complete model of it. Okay, so we have taken, we have done here. You can see the training model till 6,000 data, and then testing predict is in the green color, but it's not very very clear from here. So some more results can be observed from here. You can see here we have calculated different types of error, and we have used different type of techniques here. So ELM, then NARS model, then LSTM model, and we found that yeah, LSTM model is performing better in kind of than we have if we have more data or more kind of a sequence of the data there. So there your LSTM models, they are performing better, whether you're calculating mean average error or root mean square of error or whatever calculations you want to do, it performs better than the rest of the models there. If there is a good kind of, if there is a lot of variability, but if there is smoothness, then maybe other models may perform better. But later on we tried to implement other models, and we found that yes, GRU perform much better than LSTM for the same data. So this one is just one case study which we have done. Yeah. So I stop it here, and sorry, there's a lot of disturbance. Maybe you missed a lot during the presentation. So what we can do is next 10-20 minutes, 20 or 25 minutes, open for your questions, so that if whatever you missed, I try to answer those things. Maybe sharing again those slides with you, or just by answering other way. So yes, please, questions from your side. You can type in the chat box. I'll take the questions from there. Or if you miss something and you have doubt.
Hello.
Anyway.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, can you go to the last second slide?
Last
Type of error at the models in a case study.
Case study is this one, or you are want to see here?
Yes, sir. The slide is not visible.
Slide is not visible.
Yes.
You can see it?
No, sir. Sir, my question is that you have yes, this one. So, sir, can you tell me about what this type of the error is? How MAP,
Okay.
what these are the errors?
Calculate one is mean square, root mean square of. Okay. Calculate the mean absolute of error. Okay, and another is mean average. Mean average peak of error, or mean somebody take it mean absolute peak of error. So only during the peak values we are calculating, or we are calculating simple average of error. We are calculating root mean square of error. In statistics, we know that each represent the data in each represent the error. So these are the various types of errors given in the literature, that okay, you should calculate it that way.
So it is on our side to decide what type of the error should we take for evaluating our model.
See, these types of error, why we go for it, they give a different indicators, because some give only the difference between the average value of the error. It may be possible that average value is less, but when the critical peak values, that peak value, find that mean value is different and the estimate value is different. So that is not a good idea, because what we want is the peak has to be also equal near it. Actually the peak is 2 plus 2 and minus 2. Okay, and so the error is 0, and your model also calculate error 0, but your model peaks are say plus 7 and minus 7. So that is wrong. That is wrong interpretation. So that's why we calculate different types of errors, so that we can better estimate it.
Sir, I want to take a screenshot of the flow that is shown of your system. Can I go to that slide?
Screenshot, and these some papers are already. I'll share my website. From there you can download many such these PPTs and the papers where we have already highlighted.
Sir,
Notes are
that slide number 100.
you want to go to slide number 100?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, this one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir. I take a screenshot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any
thank you.
any question? Any questions?
Sir, my question is that here in a training data set, you again divided that data set in a two parts. Again in a training data set and validation data set.
This one is the theory. This one is the theory which we, if you go into the machine.
No, sir. My question is that suppose in what proportion we should divide with this training and validation, and it is necessary. It is necessary to have a validation data set.
Yeah, because earlier people don't go for it. They are only training and testing 70-30 kind of ratio. But later on, they found that it is not a good idea because if you go into the machine learning, you will see that the issues of bias and variance are here. Okay, so we don't have clear picture. So sometimes we have overtrained our data or overtrained our model, which is 100% accuracy and which is not correct. So the suggestion comes in that okay, divide your data into 60-20-20. You train on 60, keep 20 to validate it, and keep 20 to test it. And from those errors, you can plot 2,000. You can easily visualize what is the variation. So this bifurcation help us as help us to more data sets.
Actually, sir, your voice is so breaking. I miss very.
Voices from your side. That's also.
Yeah, plus I getting yes, I getting my answer. So we should divide means for avoid the overfitting or underfitting to the model. We divide that data in a 60-20-20%. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
When you spot these errors, validation error and your testing error, when you plot, it will give you an idea whether there is a variance or bias in your model. So our ultimate target is to kill variance and bias. So we need to understand that. So that's why we do it like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
It is clear for me.
Any more questions?
Good morning, sir. It's Nandini Sharma. My query is that, sir, what are the possible way in which we can implement LSTM in by using text analysis or text classifications?
Okay, I have shown you something. Yeah, I'll go back and then one example. Yeah, we can check it from here. Okay, so can you see the screen here?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So it's like a word is there, okay? HELL and looking for next letter. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we can go for hot encoding. Okay, we represent H by 1000 and then E by 0100 and L by 0010 and 0010. Okay, so this one is my input. Okay, sorry. I miss it where it is.
It's okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So then what we do? We multiplied it by weights. Okay.
Okay.
So we multiply this by some weight, W, some values there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And then say those we multiplied it by certain weights. We multiplied it by the weights and pass through the 10H function. So we have certain kind of a conversion from this to this, which is there on your screen.
Okay, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
then we multiplied it by another weight and passed through another activation function. It will give me certain output.
Okay, sir.
So now if you follow this output, then if you see this output here, just 1 second, I take a little point. So this output is this one, and I put one function, a nonlinear function, that whichever is the highest, it is 1 rest are 0. So it will give me 0, 1, 0, sorry, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. It give
Okay.
me 0, 0, 0, 1. And then it give me something like 0, 0, 1, 0, or something like that. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
there is some error is coming because we know that the next letter has to be E. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it has to be. We find out the error and update these weights. Okay. So that is if you divide it in one way, you pass H. Okay,
Okay.
H goes here, do this calculation, goes predicted this value. Okay, this value go here, and then and this H multi comes here. It will calculate this value. This goes next here, and it goes next here, and likewise. But every time there is certain error, so we calculate that error, and then we calculate total error, and then we try to minimize this error. Okay, so this error is coming. You just understand it. The error is coming here. If I take only one leg, H1,
Okay,
see,
sir.
0, 0, 0, and then we have hidden layer, multiply by certain weights and do those calculation, and then we go for the output layer, and then we do the soft max, apply soft max here, so that highest is given more value there, and then it has to be E, we calculate error. Okay,
Okay.
and then this error is used to, we can do it here or we can do at the total, depending upon the type we follow.
Okay,
This
sir.
goes to the next one. Okay, and then
Okay.
already hidden layer is there, so that is multiplied is also added there. So it keep on adding to each other.
Okay,
And
sir.
finally we have the next letter. What should be the next letter? So this one is a sequence. So we pass few things and the next thing is being there. Like you will find that nowadays mostly it there in Google or everywhere. You just type few letters and it automatically suggests you what's coming next and all these things.
Okay,
So
sir.
that kind of thing can be done here. I hope I'm able to answer your query in a small way.
Yes, sir. It's a nice example, and it's implementable also. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir, my question is that there is a one another neural network that is by LSTM. So what is the difference between LSTM and by LSTM, and in which application? In which application it is preferable to go with the by LSTM? Same for the natural language processing. If you want to develop any application.
See, this is bidirectional. So you can any direction. So many times, you want you have everything. If it is problem, O is there and L is there, and I want to trace back to the starting part. So this my can I develop a network which goes both call it a bidirectional. And many times, okay, some sentiment is it so the things can go back in that way. So that is basically by, so if the flow is both way, so then we can have a like a bi-directional kind of structures.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, yes, please. Yes, please, your question. Your question, please. Your question? So any more questions from your side?
Participants have put their queries and they have got answer.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your wonderful and knowledgeable session. Participants definitely get benefited by the knowledge, and organizing team is really very thankful to you for accepting our invitation for being expert in this session. And we seek your guidance in future also. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks a lot for all this. I feel please accept my apologies for poor network issues.
Some network
Those are
issues
the
are there.
technical glitch, so we cannot I mean, those
Even
are the.
even after that, the session was very wonderful, sir. Very knowledgeable. So that can be variable. The technology gives us the opportunity to connect by distances, and if there is something, then that can be variable.
Yeah.
So the session was wonderful, and we are very thankful to you.
Yeah, so I have shared my website link, so people, those who are interested, they can download many more presentations and codes and research papers from there. My coordinates are also there, so if they have any query, they can mail us. Our lab, my lab, that is Raman Lab, we support all the people who are interested in the domain of machine intelligence and AI. So if anyone is having any kind of issue, you are most welcome to collaborate, to work with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Participants, let's take a short break, and next session will be start at 11:30. So let's take a break of 8 minutes. We'll be there at 11:30 with the fourth technical session.